Hi guys, former Environment Secretary George Eustice spoke to Times Radio about the Brexit missteps taken by ex-Prime Minister David Cameron. However, I don't want to focus on that in this video. Instead, I want to talk about the arrogance and lack of understanding Brexiteers had and still maintain today when it comes to the European Union. George is a former UKIPer turned Tory, and in this interview he talks about the Brexit that could have been. The problem is it couldn't. Have a listen.
The European Union and the tension there has played a pretty big part in your career in politics. I mean, originally I think you wanted to renegotiate. You didn't want to leave. Do you feel like leaving now was the right decision? Because you ended up campaigning to leave, I think.
Yes, I do in the end. But do remember that during that, appalling stalemate that we had between 2017 and 2019, in the end, I resigned from Theresa May's government, explicitly to make the case for an EFTA and EEA settlement. Yeah. So I always wanted us to leave the European Union, but I was also quite up for, a closer relationship with the EU.
Are you still?
Including, I think that ship sailed, is what I would say. At the time, I did very much believe that Parliament should respond to the hand that it's got. And the truth is, people voted to leave the EU, but with some hesitancy. It was a clear result, but it was also fairly close. It wasn't overwhelming. And I think that Parliament had a duty to basically read that result, which is that we had to leave the European Union, but do so with a degree of caution. And that's why initially I would have been very much open to something like EFTA or the EEA. Yeah. And the problem we had is that Parliament became so polarised, in that there were a group of people that said anything like EFTA and the EEA is a sellout, and that's not Brexit. And then there were a group of people who said, it's not good enough, it's not the EU, we need a second referendum. And it became so entrenched that you could not get people to compromise. And it was a big failing of Parliament, in my view, because it was a hung Parliament. No one had a majority. People actually should have responded and behaved responsibly. And for me, that meant reaching a compromise around something like EFTA. And I think, it was a shame that didn't happen, but it didn't. Yeah. The rest is history. There was then a general election, a clear mandate, and we just left.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the arrogance here of, well, we could have just joined EFTA and we could have just joined the EEA. And that wasn't, and the reason we didn't succeed there was because of internal politics in the House of Commons. The idea that, this, we didn't even need to go and ask. They would just invite us on. Like, okay, let's start with EFTA, the European Free Trade Association, which includes Norway, Liechtenstein, Iceland and Switzerland. These are small economies. They're happy with the arrangement that they have, where they pay to have access to the single market. They're not members of the European Union, but they pay to have access. They don't have the same benefits of being a member, but they have a limited benefit, and they pay for that, and they're happy with that. Now, in order for the UK to join EFTA, it would require all of the members accepting that. And can you imagine the UK, the massive economy of the UK, and the massive population of the UK joining EFTA? It would tip the balance in whose favour? In the UK's favour, not in the favour of Liechtenstein or Iceland or Norway or Switzerland. So this would be deeply damaging, and Norway has, members of the Norwegian government have already said that they would not be entertaining the idea of the UK joining EFTA. Then he talked here about also the EEA. Well, to become a member of the EEA, this has to be signed off by EU member states. Now, let's maybe, George Eustice doesn't remember this, which is strange because he was a member of UKIP. Turn your minds back to 2016 and after 2016, the anti-European rhetoric that came out not just from the right-wing media in Britain, but also Tory politicians and UKIPers and Brexit Party politicians, the anti-EU rhetoric. Now, imagine for a moment you want to have an EEA, you want to be a member of the EEA, but not a member of the European Union. But it requires EU members, as far as I remember, EU members need to sign off on that. And your government is anti-European. Like, how do you expect to have an agreement with the European Union where you are a member of the EEA, but your party, your government is anti-European. Let's call a spade a spade. In the run up to the referendum, the government was pro-European. After the referendum, it was anti-European. You know, how are you supposed to have a good relationship with Europe if the government in charge are anti-European? And it became more and more anti-European as the years went by. They understood, whether it was the membership or whether they understood from the voters, they had to go down the anti-European route. Blame the European Union for everything. They were continually blaming the European Union right up to the moment the UK left, and even after that. So I don't know how becoming a member of the EEA would have worked. But also, let's be honest here. Being a member of the EEA and not being a member of the European Union, or being a member of EFTA, is worse than membership. It's better to be a member of the European Union, because with the EEA and the EFTA agreement, you're a rule taker, not a rule maker. Like, what is the advantage for an economy like the UK to be outside the European Union? We've seen the results of that. George Eustice can't come up with any benefits of Brexit. So the logical step is to rejoin the European Union, become a rule maker, and stop being a rule taker. I've yet to hear any benefits from Brexiteers of being a rule taker and not a rule maker. But back to the main point here, this idea that, yes, we can walk in and become a member of EFTA, we can walk in and become a member of the EEA. The sheer arrogance of these Brexiteers is mind-blowing. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.